Bonjour! I'm laying over in Brussels, the capital of Belgium, to see many of its beautiful parks, famous palaces, and historical churches, and learn about the birth of the European Union, as well with pay a visit to the old town to take in all the local sight and sound, and to get endless supply of the famous Belgian chocolates and the traditional waffles, and ending a visit with a nice cold beer at one of the famous landmarks. Not to mention getting around easily and inexpensively. All free, all under 7 hours. Officially named the Brussels Capital Region, Belgium's most densely populated and the richest region, covering 161 square kilometers and home to a population of 2.2 million. Today, it is famous for being the de facto capital of the European Union, the home to NATO and many other important international organizations. With 90% of its population speak French, it is a perfect place to polish up your Français. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brussels. We have just landed and the journey's just begun. We'll start our journey from the Brussels airport. I recommend you have at least 7 hours in between flights to enjoy all the attraction in this cool episode. So let's get started by heading down to the city center by bus. The cost is €3, but I recommend you get a limited 24-hour pass for only 7. The best of all, the express bus only takes about 20 minutes. I also recommend you check your luggage the final destination or use the airport luggage storage for a small fee. Alternatively, for a long layover, there's a lot of budget hotels available both around the airport and the city center. And I like to thank Hotel Derby for providing me with amazing accommodation for the filming of Brussels. They offer both budget accommodations in a great location next to a metro and bus stop, clean air conditioning rooms, and amazing breakfast. The best of all is only 3 minutes walk to our first attraction. So we'll start our journey right here at the park of the 50th anniversary, built in 1880 by the Belgian government under patronage of King Leopold II to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Belgian independence. In French, Parc du Centenaire means the Park of the 50th Anniversary, a large public 30 hectares urban park in the easternmost part of the European Quarter in Brussels. Originally, this area was a part of the military exercise ground outside the city center. For the National Exhibition of 1880, the plain was developed as an exhibition center. The original pavilion was largely replaced with a triumphant arcade designed by Charles Gudula in 1904, and the large hall on both sides. Today, the site composed of a vast number of gardens dotted with monuments and museums. The park hosts numerous activities throughout the year. Your search ends here for a perfect picnic site or a place to practice your yoga. Brussels is not only home to hot babes and chocolate, but also home to European Parliament and many EU institutions. If you come early enough during the weekdays, you can even get a free tour of EU Parliament building and see the iconic Assembly Chamber. How cool! But if politics is not your thing, don't worry, I got you covered. So this is actually a free museum here right across from the European Parliament, and it's open 7 days a week, and it's a great place for you to come and learn about the European cultures and languages and how everything is integrated. And the great thing about this museum is actually free of charge and it's relatively new. With that being said, let's go and explore other part of the museum and see what we can find. Located in the Eastman Building and opened as a cultural institution and exhibition center on May 6, 2017, the House of European History intended to promote the understanding of European history and European integration through a permanent and temporary and traveling exhibitions. The museum houses a collection of objects and documents, including an extensive range of media. It provides a journey through the history of Europe, principally that of 20th century, with a retrospect on the development and the event in an earlier period which were particularly significant for the whole continent. This is where the visitors will have the opportunity to learn about the European historical processes and the events and engage in critical reflection about the implication of the processes on the present day. To help you save time, you can always get around with the bike sharing for less than 1.6 euros on a one-day pass. You get unlimited 30 minutes ride across the city with stations in most popular tourist sites, and all those sites listed here. But if you prefer to walk, our next attraction is only 15 minutes on foot to my rich uncle's palace. Yes, he's a crazy rich Asian. Okay, just joking. The Royal Palace of Brussels is the official palace of King and Queen of Belgium. This is where the King of Belgium exercises his authority as a head of state and also houses room for the country's special guests, most of which are the head of state and the office of certain ministries. The palace has not been the official residence since 1831, when the King of Belgium at the time decided to move to the Royal Palace of Manneken in the outskirts of Brussels. Great things about Brussels, which I really love, is most tourist attractions are fairly close by and very compact. For example, here is the Royal Palace of Brussels, which is the official residence and home to the monarch of this country. Right across, you have Brussels Park, which is the largest urban park here in the city. Also known as the Royal Park for many years. It was the first and the largest public park in Brussels. During the Middle Ages, the Duke of Brunette used this land as a hunting ground until 1770, when the area was renovated and transformed into a full park of sculptures, fountains, and footpaths. In 1830, the site is also the location of fierce battle for the people of Brussels who fought for their revolution. Another 5 minutes on foot is one of the most important sites in Brussels, given its status as the main Catholic church in Belgium. This is where you can confess your sins. No kidding. The Cathedral of St. Michael's and Gudula is dedicated to St. Michael's and was probably built on the Tremble Hills as early as 9th century. The existing structure was built in a Gothic style at the beginning of the 13th century on the foundation of the original Romanesque church. The actual cathedral took 300 years to build. It is perfectly conserved because between 1983 and 1989 it was completely restored. But let's head over to the Old Town. I heard it's really rich in history, as well rich in old interesting water fountains. In the center of Main Square, the Herbie Agua Square is home to one of them, the Charles Bull Fountain. The fountain is dedicated to a former mayor of Brussels. Bull served the city between 1881 to 1899. At his initiative, policemen has to be able to speak both French and Dutch, and bilingual signpost was established throughout the city. However, along these reforms, his most long-lasting achievement was the result of his opposition to a grandiose architectural scheme of the King Leopold II, and the resulting preservation of the old part of Brussels. Another one of the interesting fountains include the Jeanneke piece, a bronze statue depicting a little girl squatting and urinating on a blue-gray limestone base. Just a few minutes away is a Manneken's piece. This time, a bronze sculpture depicting a naked boy urinating into a fountain's basin. Now this is the most visited and most famous landmarks here in the city. And as you can see, it's the most unusual statue, at least I ever witnessed. It's depicting a boy urinating into a fountain. Now original ones was placed here in 1618 or 1619. But since 1965, it has been moved into the Museum of the City of Brussels. So this is a replica. But I'm hungry. Actually, I'm really hungry. If you are really on a budget, there's always McDonald's. At least a copycat version of it. Actually, I don't like to eat fast food when I'm actually traveling to another country, but let me just tell you what. There's a copycat, McDonald's copycat here, and I have to try it out. They look exactly like McDonald's. The menu is almost like they even have junior. For example, they got junior fish, and what we have is junior chicken. So with that being said, I got to try the junior fish. It's €2, roughly about $3 or so. With that being said, let's give it a shot. It tastes almost exactly like filet-o-fish. They did a good job of copying. That's one thing I give them credit for. With that being said, let's try some real Belgian food. Oh yeah, it will be a crime for you to come to Belgium and not try this. Belgian waffles. And it's not expensive at all. You get a coffee and a waffle together. It's only €3, roughly about $4 or so. With that being said, it's absolutely excellent. The difference between and back in US is the fact that their waffle is more firm and it just tastes better. With that being said, back to enjoying my food. Bon appetit, everyone. I thought I got a great deal when I spent €3 getting a coffee and also a Belgian waffle, but apparently if you only get off the main square, you can get it for €2. So look around, you might find better deal than that. Oh yes, if you got money, there's no shortage of seafood. Here's a Belgian specialty. So as I'm walking down this lovely street, I found out that and every single restaurant as you walk down, they all have some sort of special mussels and mussels and more mussels and more mussels, and they have like different varieties of mussels you can try. Unfortunately, I could not try it because I'm really full from my waffle, but I think you should give it a shot and let me know how good it tastes. With that being said, let's continue our walk down there and maybe see what other things we can discover. If you're looking for Chinese food, I got you covered. There's even a miniature Chinatown in the old town. I'm serious. This is where you can get everything Chinese, from noodles to bubble tea. I think Chinese are actually taking over the world, one shop at a time. And I'm interested to see what kind of Chinese food they are offering, because my Chinese food is I have a pretty high standard for it and I know what it is. With that being said, let's check this out. I think Belgians also like to eat Chinese food. This is the third restaurant that I walked by. But you know, honestly, I'm not here to eat Chinese food. But if you're on a budget, you can give it a shot because they are pretty cheap. Another must try, chocolate. The shops are everywhere. Now if you like chocolates, honestly, this city is full of chocolate shops, and I'm getting fat because every store offers free samples and like it's crazy. And so I promise this will be the last store I hope that I'll go into. Wish me luck. Willpower do count here. It's really nice. Only one. That's it. Don't let me see that again. I don't have any willpower. I promise not to try any more chocolate, but oh wow. I need some help. Addiction. The chocolate production has become a major industry since the 19th century. Today, it forms an important part of the nation's economy and culture. Although the raw material used in the chocolate production do not originate in Belgium, the country has an association with a product that dates to the early 17th century. Today, together with Swiss, it has gained an international reputation for its quality and has become one of the commodity's most important exporters in Europe. Sweet. Oh yeah, there's something else you need to try. We can't forget about this. So Belgians are not only famous for their chocolate or the mussels, they're also famous for their beers. And this is a very, very classic and very luxurious beer you can find. It's 14 euros. It's called West Vexland. Excuse my pronunciation. And the reason it's so expensive is because it's made by monks and they are very limited edition. So every 2 weeks they change the stock. You can get brown beer or light beer. So it's never gonna be the same. So if you don't have a budget for that expensive luxurious beer, you can go for something a little bit, actually a lot less expensive. This only costs about 3 euros and is a very good Belgian beer that goes good with Belgian dark chocolate. And trust me, I love chocolate and beer. They go good hand in hand. So with that being said, let's cash this one out. With your beer in hand, it's time to start trading stocks. Okay, maybe not. But the most important hotspot for the young people to drink is on the stairs of the Brussels stock market building. No joke. Now, as part of a complete Belgium experience, I have to have my first beer just like anyone else, drink it on the street. So, with that being said, cheers! Another popular place for all the young people to hang out and have a beer is a square in front of Church of St. Catherine. It's also where you can confess your sin while completely drunk. So right now I'm in the lower town and this is a very popular square. It's St. Catherine Square and it's named after, you guessed it, the cathedral behind my back is the St. Catherine's Cathedral that was built in the 14th centuries. But between 1854 to 1859, it was completely redesigned. Now despite its religious significance, we are surrounded by different pubs, restaurants, and lots of young people here to hang out and have a drink. After confessing my sins, it's time to call it a night, but not before checking out one of Brussels' many UNESCO World Heritage sites. The Central Square of Brussels is the most important tourist destination and the most memorable landmark in the city. The square measures 68 by 110 meters and surrounded by the city's town hall and the King's House. And this is why I've chosen to end my layover here in Brussels at the Grand Square. In less than 7 hours, we did so much with so little time and with almost no money. That tells you you don't need a lot, but you do need to travel smart. With that being said, it's time to head back to the airport. With those words of wisdom being said, it's time to pack up and head back to the airport the next morning. Going back to the airport the same way as I got down there, and that is by bus, and making the most of my 24 hours advance. Once again, make sure to head back at least 2 hours prior to your flight. The ride usually takes about 20 minutes from the city center and a little longer during the rush hours. With that being said, I hope you have an amazing layover in Brussels. Have a pleasant flight, safe travels, and see you next time. Au revoir.